Hello and welcome along to another EFL Manager special from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm joined by Craig Savage as always, and I've got a feeling this is going to be a very busy day for our channel because we're coming first for Charlton Athletic, who obviously had to replace Lee Bowyer, who resigned a couple of days ago. We talked about him in the Birmingham special being one of the favourites to take over, and he has of course now gone and done that. And Charlton Athletic this morning have given what I think is all three of us a pleasant surprise, including Charlie as well, with the appointment of Nigel Adkins. So we'll talk about him in a moment and what we expect from him. But Craig, we always start with the old man. So let's talk about Lee Bowyer, because he's had a bit of an interesting relationship with Charlton, the club, and Charlton, the fans. Obviously, a brilliant start, took them up at the second time of asking via the playoffs into the Championship, beating Sunderland in the final. Then after a good start in the Championship, problems off the pitch and on it as they went back down. Post-pandemic, obviously, with the break. And in this season, floating in and around the playoffs, but a little bit frustrating and inconsistent. So what do you make overall of his time at Charlton and his resignation at the time that it was? Because you said with the Birmingham special that he shouldn't leave before the end of the season.
No, I did say that. Let's start with obviously Lee Bowyer at Charlton, and done a fantastic job for what he's had to do and all the mess behind the scenes of the field. It's been absolutely crazy. There's been loads of protests and throwing tennis balls onto the pitch and all that stuff. Obviously, he's had to deal with that, and you have to give him credit because I don't think many people would have tipped them to go up 2 seasons ago.
Agreed.
Along with Luton and Barnsley. Considering they did finish third in the league, but obviously with Hornby and Sunderland folding near the end of the season, that gave Charlton the advantage really because they played Doncaster in the semis. Yeah. But yeah, obviously you've got to give him credit. Obviously he got promoted, and I think he done the best he could at that time. Obviously they got relegated on the final day. Obviously we spoke about Lyle Taylor last season. Obviously him not playing pretty much cost them. And yeah, it's been a bit of a tough season for them, to be honest. But looking at who they've got, I'm surprised that they're only there in 6th place at the moment. But I think obviously new owners obviously now taken over. I think it would have been a slow build again. I'll get to my prediction later, but yeah, I thought Lee Bowyer's done a fantastic job. And when I say also, I don't think he should leave the end of the season till at the end of the season because obviously if they were mid-table, not really in the playoffs and not really going down, I would say yeah, fine. But they still got a good chance of getting into the playoffs and possibly promotion.
Absolutely. And as you rightly mentioned, League One is so tight. I mean, we'll talk about it a bit later on. But Accrington are in the bottom half and they're 5 points off the playoffs. All the teams have played a different number of games. So it's going to be a crazy end. But I'm inclined to agree with you. A 40% win ratio in his time at Charlton, and that included a relegation season. And to be fair, as you mentioned, off the pitch, things were not ideal for a large part of his spell. And he kept the club going and he kept the fans on side for the most part as well. But I guess one of the things we have got to discuss for him is he's going to a club that's in disarray off the pitch in Birmingham. But Charlton on it, as you mentioned, a new owner and finally some stability now. Was it perhaps the wrong time for the parting, or do you think Charlton are going to be better off for it?
It's a weird one because obviously Lee Bowyer resigned and then went to Birmingham. If Birmingham made an approach for Lee Bowyer, Charlton would have got some compensation out of it. So I'm baffled by that. Lee Bowyer would have probably said yes to that anyway. So, and then Charlton make money. It's a win-win situation for both parties, really. For Lee Bowyer and for Charlton. So, for him to resign and then Charlton getting nothing on it, I don't know. Maybe I'm just putting 2 and 2 might equal 6.
It is a unique situation because, as you mentioned, that's the one thing that didn't add up to me through the whole thing is why he resigned the day before taking a job when, unless it was coming from Birmingham, we've all talked about what happens behind the scenes, but a very strange situation. So we can reflect on the fact that he's done a good job there. And although the timing's not great and the ending wasn't particularly brilliant in terms of form, he will probably be remembered fondly for what he achieved at Charlton. But we lead on to the new man now, which is Nigel Adkins. Now, until probably very late last night, nobody saw this coming, which is always the good sign of a good managerial appointment. I think I'm going to get it out of the way early. This is exceptional. But what are your initial thoughts, Craig?
Well, it's funny because when we do these manager specials and who we think should be the next manager, we don't really say Nigel Adkins, and it's no disrespect to Nigel Adkins because I think he's done a brilliant job at every club he's had, and he's obviously had different situations where he's had these clubs, and that's actually a really good appointment, really good, solid manager. He knows the leagues, EFL very well. He took Scunthorpe of all teams, Scunthorpe. No disrespect to Scunthorpe, but they were a very small club. To take them into the Championship, one thing. Obviously, he took Southampton into the Premier League. Had a bit of time at Reading, obviously after they got relegated from the Premier League. And then obviously he had a hard situation at Hull because we all know that the owner obviously is a mess up there as well. So I think he's done a really good job everywhere it's gone, and his win percentages are pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to say, in his career, it's over 42%, and that includes times, as you mentioned, at clubs like Hull, who were in a bit of trouble off the pitch at the time. And I guess we've got to look at it. The blueprint of Charlton under the new owner, albeit gradually and with a slow and sensible build, is to get back to the Premier League eventually. Now, he's been given a 2.5-year deal, which since the pandemic, we've seen a lot of short-term appointments. So a proper commitment here from the club. And they've been good with managers, and the new owners seem to be the same. But when he was at Southampton, he got back-to-back promotions with a big side from League One. That's got to be factored into the decision, hasn't it?
Yeah, I said it's one of the managers who's got real experience. He knows how to get the job done. He knows how to get teams promoted. One was unexpected because obviously no one actually would have thought Scunthorpe would go up, and then obviously Southampton was a lot of expectancy because obviously, especially League One, obviously they were in a financial mess at that time, and they had to get out. The same thing with Sunderland. They were obviously a big club in that division, need to get out of League One. Obviously, Sunderland haven't done that yet, but obviously when you look where Southampton are now, obviously striding in the Premier League again. So. But he laid the foundations to that.
Agreed.
So you have to give him credit obviously for that. So if they back him, obviously through the summer, and if they keep going by for it in next season, who knows? But I said I'll get my prediction later on. But with 10 games to go, obviously you don't know what's going to happen. I wouldn't be, if I was Charlton fans, I wouldn't be disappointed if he don't go up this season. And then hopefully he has a good summer, works in these players, and then go on to obviously a good season next season.
Well, that was the only thing I was going to ask you about this, because the one thing that worries me about Nigel Adkins is that he might have put himself under a bit of pressure here. Because one of the lines from his statement today was, the team got a great result on Tuesday night, and now we need to keep driving together because we've got a great chance of winning promotion this season. Now, we've got to bear in mind, Hull are probably quite far clear at the top now. Bar a collapse, it will likely be them. But then you've got clubs like Sunderland under Lee Johnson, Ipswich now under Paul Cook, Charlton under Nigel Adkins, 3 brilliant appointments for 3 massive clubs. But 2 of them are probably going to miss out. So we've got to have a look at that and think, is he putting himself under too much pressure too soon? Or do you think he has got a real chance of going up this year?
Well, the playoffs work in magical ways. Did anyone think Wickham will go up last season? That's the beauty of the playoffs. Anything can happen in the playoffs. So he's got a chance, but the only problem is he's played 2 games ahead of everyone around him. Obviously, Charlton played 36, Doncaster in 5th and played 33. Ipswich and Oxford behind him, only a point or 2 behind Charlton. I've got 2 games in hand, so the ball's out of his court at the moment. So all he can do at the moment is just keep winning games, then relying on the results.
Yeah, and to be fair, we have mentioned this in a few recent manager specials, is probably having played more games and having points on the board isn't as much of a hindrance as previously, because the teams with games in hand are going to be playing twice a week continuously to the end of the season, particularly looking at like a Blackpool with 4 games in hand. Catch up, they're not going to be able to play the first team every game. So it's a really unique situation this year. And you could argue the League One's actually the new championship this season. It's that close at the top of the table. So looking forward to the rest of the season, Craig. You mentioned a good team, a good result on Tuesday, mentioned by Nigel Adkins. Johnny Jackson's still involved at the club, an absolute legend. What do you think is going to happen for the rest of the season? Are they going to make the top 6? Are they going to make a late surge for the top 2, albeit unlikely? And are they going to get promoted? I'm going to put you on the spot.
As you just said, it's quite a unique season. It's not the same, like obviously years of the last couple of years where everyone's pretty much played the same game, or just one team's got 1 game in hand. It's like it's quite a lot of teams got playing. They got 2 games in hand. One's played 2 games more. It's quite scattered this year, obviously because of COVID. I don't think they make the top 2. I definitely don't think they'll make the top 2. I personally believe that they should not sack off the season. They can go for it. Why not? But obviously, I wouldn't be too disappointed if they don't get promoted this season. Obviously, Charlton fans will be, because they want to go back into the championship, and why not? But it would surprise me if they actually miss out the playoffs because of games in hand. But to be honest, Charlton have got some really, really good players. Like Andrew Shinney, we know what he can do. Jaden Stockley, another guy, good experience. Connor Washington, Northern Ireland International, Chuck Taneke. Quality players. It's just obviously just got to keep that run going, because obviously they're unbeaten 5, but it's win, draw. Yeah. So they've got to keep that momentum going. The only problem is they need to keep the goals out, because they conceded 48, which is highest in the top half. And with a goal difference of 4, that's not going to get you anywhere.
Absolutely. I was going to mention it next. The defensive thing's the one that's got to be resolved. And I will say on Andrew Shinney, scored a lovely goal in midweek, by the way.
Oh, I saw this morning. It was lovely.
But moving on to the rest of the season, obviously Wimbledon, the first game, But you say potentially it's out of their hands because they've played more games, but they are playing all those sides up there. They've still got to play Doncaster, Lincoln, Sunderland, Ipswich, Peterborough and Hull before the end of the season. And even Accrington, who we mentioned a minute ago. So, like you say, they could miss out because they're playing all of the top sides. But equally, if they win them, they could put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Well, there's always a team that we always say that they're going to disrupt the promotion race, and Charlton could possibly do that, but they've got to win the games that are below them. So AC Wimbledon is a tough test regardless, because they're fighting for their lives. They want to stay in League One with a new stadium. Now we're in that final run. You're going to play against teams that are fighting for something, whether it's promotion or relegation. So they're all going to be tough.
Yeah, completely agree. And obviously, I guess we've got to talk about Nigel Adkins himself, and we come on to this bit towards the end. You've said you're not sure they'll get promoted this year. Making the playoffs is so hard to predict given the teams they've got left. But with a 2.5-year deal, I guess the big question for Charlton fans is Nigel Adkins going to be a success? And is he going to leave Charlton in a better position than he started with? I've got a strong opinion on this, but I'll let you go first. What do you think? For Nigel Adkins in charge of Charlton, it's got to be a good appointment, surely.
We've had manager specials where I think, I'm not sure about this one. I think this is a really good one.
Yeah.
Really, really good one for Charlton. And I think he can really build Charlton up to be that strong force in the Championship again. But obviously, as I said, I don't think it'll be this season. Next season, I think it'll be the one for Charlton.
Fair enough. I will stick my neck on the line. I don't think they'll get promoted this season, but I do think they'll make the top 6. But I would be very surprised. And we've said this in a few, and we're going to get proven wrong. With the sides in League One, you can't predict. But if Nigel Adkins get backed in the summer, I can't see how Charlton aren't competing for the top 2 next year, because he's proven it at very different clubs, at smaller clubs and larger clubs in the league, as you've said. And the only thing that sort of hit me from what you said earlier is you said, we never really link him with the Championship jobs that have come up this season. And the only question I'm asking myself now is why not? Because he's such a good manager, and I really think he's going to succeed at Charlton. And I think from the new owner, this is an absolute masterstroke. So we'll wait and see if we're proven right. But if you did enjoy this episode and you are enjoying the fact that Nigel Adkins is the new Charlton manager, please do put a thumbs up on the video. If you're a Charlton fan, of course, let us know what you think down in the comments. I hope you're as excited as we are about his appointment. I mean, last time we did a Charlton special on the channel, it was about players refusing to play about a year ago. So this is a very different and hopefully a lot more positive. If you haven't already, subscribe down below for regular content from the Honest Football Podcast. Championship predictions later today, and we'll wait and see if we've got one from Portsmouth as well. Thank you to Craig for joining me as always. You can follow us over on Twitter at HonestFootball3. And hopefully we'll see you next time.